ability, because if people learn about it, they will act. Oh, that's so. And it's true that just a few people can make a change, and more children can have their voices heard. A 10-year-old was quoted as saying, "It's great to know that they're being inclusive of the young ages here, you know." Sure, before this child was taught about all these things in a deliberate manner to make him think that change is required, you know, for their voices to be heard, etc. Sure, before he was introduced to these subject matters, he still had that same belief system. He knew all about this stuff. He was a climatologist, of course, at 10 years old. But anyway, yeah, this is the publication for sustainable development shit, of course, because there's no smoke without fire. It's all linked, of course, because this is just another example of the stuff that they're now starting to learn in school. Learning for sustainability has been a concept, along with global citizenship education in Scotland for some time. But this is their latest update on the subject at hand. It says here that the learning for sustainability curriculum across Scotland in early years settings, early years being nursery by the way, embeds social justice and human rights in educational practice. Or children's human rights. Social justice. So just let that sink in. Early years settings, social justice. So irrespective of how little or how much emphasis is put on social justice in an early learning setting, the point remains the same, that it's still there. Why? Anyway, connecting outdoor learning, sustainable development, then in brackets, which encompasses climate change and the climate emergency, of course, and global citizenship. Learning for sustainability supports children to understand the world and the types of communities they wish to live in. Oh my god. Though the curriculum has been a success, including achieving UNESCO Green Flag status, it is acknowledged that there is a need to refresh our delivery of learning for sustainability to ensure that it is a consistent and meaningful delivery for every learner. As part of this, Children's Parliament was commissioned to capture the views of children across Scotland on why learning for sustainability is important to them and what they would like to see improved or changed about their current offer. This work will be used to inform the new Learning for Sustainability Action Plan. We were also asked to produce a creative output alongside the children to inspire educators to deliver a curriculum that meets the needs and hopes of their learners. Oh wow, bold and brave and progressive. It's just so lovely to see a bunch of children learning all there is to know about sustainability, inclusion, diversity, social justice and equity. You know, it's great stuff. Really is great stuff. My school teaches about climate change and sustainability, but some of us learn more than others, when every person should be learning a lot about it, said an 11-year-old. Well, it's great to know that in Perth, somewhere in Perth, in that area, there's at least one school that's promoting climate change as well as sustainability. But of course, in order for this 11-year-old to come up with the opinion that, you know, some are learning more than others, but we should be learning a lot about it, I wonder how you ended up coming to that sort of conclusion. Could it be, now I'm just going out on a limb here, could it be that it was presented to you, this education material, these resources was presented to this 11-year-old as well as the rest of the class in such a manner that it allowed for that child in particular to come up with that conclusion of their own accord? Yeah, I'm going with that theory. It's just odious. So naturally, this is what they want to see. The kids are led to believe that more needs to be done, time after time after time. Oh, we need more than this. We need more climate change education, etc. Because they're taught, their education is presented to them in such a manner that they think that's what's required. Anyway, whoa, shit. During the process, they consulted with 132 children aged 2-year-old to 13 to find out what they think needs to happen for every learner to have a consistent and meaningful learning for sustainability education. I'm sure the 2-year-old had such great input, you know. This became our calls to action from children, detailing the areas where they think provision can and should be extended to in the education system. Our work also captures the experiences of educators and what they feel, or what they need, to feel supported to deliver a modern and dynamic learning for sustainability curriculum. We can thank the SNP for this, of course, because it was them that effectively put the shit into our education system long before the Sustainable Development Goals ever came to prominence in 2015. Now, we can thank Alex Salmon for this shit. Children's Parliament takes a children's rights approach, meaning our work is guided by the principles and furthers the realisation of the rights of all children as outlined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Isn't that convenient? So they get to justify their shit by saying, oh, we're just simply following the guidelines and the principles set out by the United Nations Children's Rights Charter. So effectively you are following rules set out for you by an unelected body who's not even part of this country. The United Nations in this instance, or UNESCO, etc. You know, just because nothing's actually written on paper that suggests that we're controlled by a foreign entity, we quite clearly are. It's quite self-evident because irrespective of which charter, which bill it is, the United Nations throw out for countries to abide by, they all do it. They justify their cancer by saying, well, we're just following the guidelines. You know? Oh, it says it in the Children's Rights Charter, that's why we're doing it. So you're teaching kids about sustainability, climate change, equity, social justice, etc., 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 and your excuse, your justification, this is what they're doing. Their justification, oh, well, it's in the Children's Rights Charter. That's great, that's fantastic. Why are we implementing anti-Scots law? Oh, because the children demanded it. How did the children end up coming to a point where they started demanding that that be put into law? Because they got taught about it. As Scotland moved towards legal incorporation of the UNCRC, children's participation in designing and engaging in their educational experience is a step towards ensuring their meaningful engagement and fulfilment of an education that supports them to live in a healthier, happier and safer Scotland, including the improvement of their physical environment and meaningful input into what they learn and any decisions. Oh, I wonder what the next sentence will be. I can hazard a guess, like, made about their futures. So, children's human rights belong to every child in the world as an entitlement. They do not they do not need to be earned, and they cannot be taken away. Well, thank God for the United Nations Children's Rights Charter, because as I said earlier on, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the generosity of Nicola Thinlips to decide to implement this into Scots law, children all across Scotland, all across the world in fact, they would just be held back and oppressed, of course, you know. Their much valued opinions and their intellectual prowess was forever held back. Now along comes the UNCRC and they're able to really blow holes in the idea that the planet's doomed. Oh no, they've got the solutions. The UNCRC states that children have the right to an education that supports them to develop respect for their natural environments. You see how this works? So it says that they have a right to an education that supports them to develop respect for their natural environments. And obviously the environment's the new god these days. So, read between the lines there. They have a right, therefore a rule must be put into place to ensure that schools promote an education that's effectively promoting climate change shit to children. Yeah. As well as the opportunity to have their voices heard in decision making. Yeah. So you're going to propagandize children in order for them to be able to say something worth listening to. Their henceforth could end up becoming a decision. You know? It's important to emphasise the opportunity that the new Learning for Sustainability Action Plan presents for the fulfilment of children's human rights in Scotland. Involving children's views and calls to action into the curriculum will strengthen its delivery as well as bring together both children and adults in educational settings to engage with the content and reflect on their own practice. Oh, wow. They are here, little climatologists, you know. Oh, fucking hell. So, anyway. So here's I'm now going to tell you about the investigation. It says that to capture children's views on learning for sustainability education, we worked with 132 members of the Children's Rights Parliament across 5 settings from early years, which is nursery, to first and second years. Which is, for anybody not from Scotland, that's roughly in about 12 at the youngest, but roughly 30 to 40 years old. The settings were selected to represent a wide range of urban and rural experiences and a mix of socio-economic and ethnicity groups, of course, because that's what's imperative when talking about learning for sustainability, you know. Ethnicity groups. When selecting our 12 investigators, our sustainability investigators, children who would dive deeper into our exploration of learning for sustainability, we endeavour to work with children who have had few or no prior experiences of participation. Yeah. Their journey through the project supported them to grow in confidence and agency through relationship building and knowledge of their rights under the UNCRC. Oh yeah, new self, a new sense of importance, you know. Blow that smoke up their arse, you know. Politicise them, propagandise them, and as long as they're armed to the teeth with knowledge of their rights, they'll get through it all. As they're introduced to propaganda, pieces of propaganda, political talking points, that are untoward. We also sought to work with children who had little or no experience of climate activism or involvement in the school's people voice groups. We went on a learning journey together as an investigator group, exploring changes that could be implemented in each unique educational setting and community, focusing on building relationships through our weekly online calls and blah blah blah. No. So, just another example though, children that might not necessarily have had any experience with climate activism because, you know, that was a difficult task because there's so many of them that are hell bent on being involved in climate activism now. They're all low climatologists at the end of the day. So finding little Johnny, who seemed to be relatively new to the concept, was it was like finding a needle in a haystack. so just like the Citizens Assembly, where there was a child equivalent, and the kids from all over Scotland came together, climate change makers as they were called, inevitably concluded with them conjuring up their own demands for the government to take into consideration. But what they didn't really advertise too much was that all these children were effectively teamed up with so-called experts. So, activist types, Same principle seems to be applied here, as it says that they work with 132 kids, etc., in introductory workshops. Each workshop supported the children, to learn about their rights. So first and foremost, they have to learn all about their rights, the same way that the kids in the Children's Climate Change Assembly would have learned all about the climate crisis in order for them to start thinking of what can be done if we're playing into the parameters of a climate crisis. They're not getting taught about the other side of the argument that suggests there's no such fucking thing, but We spoke about children's human rights, ensuring that all children are healthy, happy and safe. Also exploring the current knowledge and understanding of the Learning for Sustainability curriculum. Sure you had to get that in there. Because the kids can't make, decisions. They can't have an opinion or a voice that can be listened to and taken seriously if they're not, given pre-knowledge of all of the necessary talking points. It's just remarkable. It's so blatant to me. It really is. And then their early years engagement was ensuring that children of all ages were involved in the development of the Learning for Sustainability Action Plan. In this instance, they worked with 2 early years settings, one in an urban environment in Edinburgh and one forest nursery in Perth. Across 2 in-person visits at each site, gathered quotes, drawings and creative input from 30 children aged 2 to 5. Now again, albeit it won't be as full on when we're talking about kids of that age, I'd like to think. The point remains the same. There is nothing of value that a child at that age could ever possibly bring to the table, unless they're introduced, irrespective of how little or how much they are introduced. The introduction is the problem. It says here, in their early years workshops, they asked kids to show through art and play activities what makes them feel healthy, happy and safe in their nursery, including their outdoor spaces. Dodger. Central to rights-based practice is the building of relationships and friendships through the process, as the investigators could not come together in one place due to the coup. They adopted a 13th member of the team. Alright, whatever, a squirrel. And Dodger is our Learning for Sustainability mascots. Oh, well, it's funny how in one breath you want to treat children as if they're no different to adults, but yet you seem to treat them like kids when it suits you. Wonder if Dodger the red squirrel could be used as an example as to why immigration could be considered a bad thing, grey squirrel immigration. No, can't do that like, oh no. Our work with children built towards the production of our Thing Link, the digital space which brings together all the views of our children investigators about the different elements of learning for sustainability, as well as their calls to action to improve the curriculum. The Thing Link is illustrated by a children's illustrator called Emily McKenzie. Good for you, Emily. I hope your mother's proud. Anyway, just briefly, this is just giving you a bit of a summarisation of the ages of some of these kids in question. 11, 12, 13, 10, 9, 10, 11, fucking, it's just 8-year-olds. So some of the things that the kids are quoted as saying here, just briefly. Children also wanted to be able to choose when they learned outside rather than having small time-constrained windows. They felt that planning aspects of outdoor learning across the whole curriculum was beneficial rather than having it siloed into learning for sustainability. periodically. This would support the engagement with learning for sustainability in a sustained, meaningful manner, as well as ensuring they receive the benefits of being outdoors across their school calendar. And a 10-year-old up here says, sustainable nature spaces are really important for learning. All schools should have these places. I'm sure when Nicola Sturgeon read this report, she high-fived John Swinney and her best friend Mary Black, and they had a couple of they had a couple of pints to celebrate that a 10-year-old managed to get the lingo down to a T. Sustainable nature spaces, man. At nursery, on the other hand, children across both early learning settings also connected their play outside with their interest in learning about their physical environment. Both nurseries are child-led, so the children had learned about nature and wildlife through exploring their outdoor spaces. While outdoor spaces are vital, outdoor learning and positive development through play and exploration is also crucial to the delivery of learning for sustainability in early learning years. You know, why can't you just let kids go out and play, or whatever the case may be? There is arguments to be made that it can be beneficial for kids to spend some of their learning, their time in school, the learning time, if you will, outside and outdoor learning. There is an argument to be made there. It's when they start to shoehorn in the back door cancer such as learning for sustainability. What fucking relevance is that? Oh, I forgot. Mother Nature, my climate, etc. That's what this is about. So, see, this is the sort of stuff though that I kind of get animated over, because this is the end product of what happens when you politicize children, when you propagandize children, when you present children with a bunch of bullshit. By and large, the climate emergency, sustainable development. Of course, now the kids think that, they've got a voice, they've got an opinion that matters, and it's going to be respected, and, if they can come up with that golden solution, and the government will have no choice but to take you seriously. You're right, after all, they might even put in a policy. Sustainable development is one of the 3 subject areas of the Learning for Sustainability curriculum. UNESCO frames this as how we use our education system to address the urgent and dramatic challenges the planet faces, all of which are manufactured, if they even exist at all of which come from the Sustainable Development Goals. It's almost as if the two are linked. In fact, they are linked. Imagine my shock. The children and educators we work with clearly express their interest and desire to engage with the climate emergency that they've been taught to believe exists, of course, as the main focus of the Sustainable Development subject area, and so this formed the focal point for the participation process. In the workshops, where they present children with a bunch of shite and propaganda, we explore children's feelings around learning for sustainability, climate change, and their education using our head, heart, and feet activity. That's great. That's fantastic, but I'm sure you would have had to have taught or spoken to the kids at great length about, sustainability or learning for sustainability and climate change. You would have had to have had it all down to a T in a propagandized manner. Then you ask the kids how they feel about it. You didn't ask them prior. You didn't go up to little 4-year-old Peter and say, I know that you're not that long out of nappies, but what's your opinion on sustainable developments? Because I'm pretty sure Peter wouldn't have known what to say. So he has to be introduced to said topic. Taught what it means, what you claim it means. Then you ask him for his opinion. So this is how this works. And this is the sort of shit that they do in order to justify policies that can be built on the back of the suggestions that are put in place by the kids that are allegedly representing children across the country. These worries included confusion over how... Wait, I think there might be more below. In our investigation session, we expanded on the learning from our introductory workshops by encouraging the children to create climometers. These are moving scales that depict hypothetical futures ranging from a climate crisis to the hopeful visions for a sustainable future, such as the way that schools can support climate action. Oh, so now the kids are being coerced into believing that the alternative to a climate crisis is a sustainable future. Oh, imagine my shock. This is like... I'm making a joke out of it to a certain extent because, it's not something I ain't seen before, but it really is odious. Scotland has declared itself in a state of climate emergency. Children in Scotland are already experiencing the adverse effects of climate change. Are they aye? Oh, wow. Why is it just affecting them like? Well, I wonder if that's because they learned about it in school. It's not affecting the rest of us though. Those textbooks work wonders on the mind. The children were aware of the negative impact already affecting Scotland's biodiversity. Is that right? Because, this is what they do, biodiversity, some species are endangered, or certain parts of the country things are on the decline. That's what fucking happens. Things don't stay the same forever. But oh no, it's not pesky climate change until it's not, you know. Like, for example, there was an example that I remember hearing not too long ago, in fact, in the Parliament, their climate change committee that they have every week or so. And obviously the implication from Fiona Hislop was that climate change was the driving factor of biodiversity loss. Well, one of the experts on the panel, one of the first things she said was like, well, we know that there's quite a lot of deer. You know, deer are munching away too much, you know, because deer do need to be killed. There's no predators to hunt down the deer. And as a result, they are somewhat pests in nature. They leave a bit of a mess. They desecrate the environment. But no, Fiona Hislop, what did you believe it was climate change? But the expert rolled in, you know, stated the fucking obvious. Bet the children don't know about that though. No. They want you to think it's the CO2 that's doing that. Couldn't be those deer. There was a theme in both rural and urban settings with children expressing concern and disappointment over the current situation, of course, because they're taught that there's a climate catastrophe, and then you ask their opinions after the fact. Will sheep survive climate change? I don't know. And we have sheep on our farm at home, asked an 11-year-old. Okay. Oh. So, it says up here, if you didn't have sustainability, you would have pollution. What's that right? Well, we're all living the mantra, or under the mantra of sustainability right now, but there's quite a few countries out there that ain't really doing what they're supposed to be doing, and nobody says anything about that now, because it's not about what they claim it's about. I'm just preaching to the choir at this point, but, you know, that's a kid from nursery. So, I mean, for fuck's sake. Ugh. We learn about climate change in school, and it's interesting, but sometimes I start not to care because I don't know what to do about it. Oh, well, you're clearly not groomed enough, mate, you know? You need to become a climate change activist. Jesus, something's gone wrong with this 12-year-old from Inverclyde. He's not doing his job properly. You know? Worries included confusion over how children could make a difference in their schools, especially if they felt adult decision makers were not acting fast enough to instigate change. See, metaphorical smoke up the arse. Children are all propagandized. They're climate change activists now, but the teachers, they're not on board, like. They're not on board to the same extent. Almost every child we spoke to was passionate and interested. When they use the word passionate, this comes up over and over and over again. No, that's effectively, they might as well have a dunce cap on their head. That is effectively saying that you can write that child off as propagandized. Passionate is not the passionate we're all accustomed to. This is propagandized children. This is children that have bought hook, line and sinker into the narratives that have been perpetuated. Passionate. And then they get the pat on the back. Well done, Callum. Well done, you. Interest in the subject and wanting to see a more holistic climate education reflecting their drive and passion. You see how this fucking works? So they're demanding more climate change education to reflect the drive and passion that they've got, which came off the back of the climate education that already exists, but they're taught it in such a manner that they're led to believe that there's not enough, if any, climate change education at all. This is what they do all the time. Ugh. The investigators highlighted the power of the education in school settings to combat climate change. They were passionate about their need for everyone to be informed on the topic, especially educators. I mean, again, this is the naivety of children, and this is why I find it heinous, because they're highlighting the need for educators to become more informed, because they're already informed, but the educators, the adults in the room, they're not informed. They don't have the same IQ as little 4-year-old Robert, who's learned all about climate change in school. So 4-year-old Robert's now telling the teachers and adults across the country that they need to learn what he's learned. They're not doing enough. They're not educated enough. And obviously they're too young because of naivety and innocence, because they're just children. They don't see, obviously, that they're being groomed. They are being spoon-fed narratives in such a manner that they inevitably conclude with things such as that. It's the parents that need to be keeping a close eye on this shit. It's not the fault of the children. This should include adults across the school, not just those involved directly in teaching the Learning for Sustainability curriculum. Children want passionate and informed adults to support these learning. They're learning. Well, you just get some Extinction Rebellion and I'm sure they're passionate enough, like, you know. Adults in Scottish Government and teachers should have climate education for them planned into every school year. See, this is what I'm saying. Problem, reaction, solution. Yeah. The more and more of these kids get taught that there's not enough climate change education, the more this demand is put out into the ether, inevitably it's going to become a reality. It already is in many a school, but it's not quite there yet. It's not policy across the board as of yet. It's coming though. Where are we? There was a careful balance to be struck between the children wanting to learn how they could contribute to tackling the climate emergency and their worries and anxieties around an issue that is structural and stressful. Structural, The key emphasis they shared was around the importance of children being involved in meaningful climate action that made a difference, such as sharing their calls to action with adult decision makers who can enact changes in individual action through learning for sustainability activities or eco groups in schools. Children felt that their learning for sustainability curriculum was important because without it, they would not be informed on the climate emergency. See? Right there. Children felt that their learning for sustainability curriculum was important because without their learning for sustainability curriculum, they would not be informed on the climate emergency. I should just end this fucking video right now because that quote right there has summarised everything that I have been saying for God knows how long now. I'm going to have to make this a two-parter. Like, it could not be any more blatant. Think, this is grooming. This is grooming 101. Happening right in front of our faces. Under everybody's nose. What the fuck's happening here? It goes on. And on. Oh my God. Jesus, where are we now? Sorry. Global citizenship. To show the power of global connections, we created a digital map with the investigators displaying all our links around the world, showing how interconnected they all were, despite not having met each other in person, and having a range of backgrounds and ages. Using foot miles as a powerful example of our global connectivity, investigators calculate the travel and air miles of their favourite meals, blah blah blah. It's good that we learn about other cultures and beliefs so that we can better understand and potentially help them, said a 12-year-old investigator from Inverclyde. As such, the investigators knew they weren't alone in their experiences of the climate emergency in their communities and acknowledged that this was a global issue. It was important to them that all schools had the same access to positive climate education. See, again, this is just constant theme, you know? This is what they want. Everybody's got to have this education. You know, they're advocating, unbeknownst to them, they're just advocating for the next generation to be even more politicised than they are. Yeah. Says here, a key part of learning for sustainability is for children to learn about global citizenship and their positions as citizens of the world. Yeah. They shared that they enjoyed learning about other places and wanted to ensure children's human rights were fulfilled everywhere. They placed a strong emphasis on equity and fairness. I'm sure they did. Learning for sustainability is important because even if other children aren't doing anything to harm the planet, they don't deserve to be harmed by climate change. Oh, fuck. Where are we? Let's see. I think it would be a good idea for our primary school to work with other schools on climate change. An 8-year-old! We know that the children had a wide variety of experiences and exposure to global connections such as travel and language. There was a clear difference between educational settings, even within the small range of settings we work with children acknowledging this and felt it was important that all children had the same quality of experiences when it came to learning about global citizenship. Their suggestions to improve provision across the board included resourcing schools in Scotland to engage with their international celebrations and days of climate action. Of course! So that every child is able to participate. I'm sure that everybody, if you're even watching to this point, you've seen the pattern here. I don't really need to elaborate much further. There's still one other thing I need to go over. Children's call to action. So they want outdoor learning. They want sustainable development. Adults in school and adults who decide what we learn need to learn about the climate emergency too. So training should be planned into every school year so that all adults in school are aware of the climate emergency and can help children learn about it. So you want us to believe that children who have learnt about this shit in school via their educational system and the experts, if you will, at their workshops, the children are now somehow more informed on political matters than the adults in their spheres. Therefore, the great wise suggestion from the children, the climatologists, etc., was that the adults need to become informed. They need to get on my level, effectively. And it says, adult decision makers should also receive regular training on the climate emergency. This is fucking what? This kid said this. Children are passionate about climate change. Their views and ideas and opinions should be included in how they want to learn about the subject. Oh, of course. Now, in order for their their opinions and their views and their ideas to be shaped, well, that's just simple. Just edit the textbook. You can get them to say whatever they want. Children, no, sorry, Scottish Government should take urgent action to protect and respect trees. Alright, okay. Children and adults should have opportunities to work together on children's rights, climate change and sustainability, demanding that the government help to set up groups to tackle the climate emergency that include children. Fucking hell. These groups should have regular opportunities to influence decision making. Oh yeah. Global citizenship. Scottish schools should have links to other schools around the world. Schools should support children to take part in learning, protest and action on the climate emergency. Schools should take part in international celebrations and days of action such as Earth Day. The Scottish Government should provide these resources so that all schools can take part. Oh, I'm sure they'll oblige. Children and adults around the world should have their human rights respected. This means being able to live in a healthy, happy and safe environment, of course. For convenience. So, the Children's Parliament just goes on a bit more. But I think on that note, I'm going to have to pause this. And we get to the third and final section of this video. Fucking hell, this has been one long segue. Didn't realise we'd be doing it for this long.